Hi everyone! Today I want to talk about what you can expect if you're going to be a music major. I was a flute performance major, so my experience may have been a little bit different than someone who goes for an education major, but there's a lot of overlap, and I'll just let you know what I experienced. One of the first experiences you'll have when you start school as a music major is auditions. A lot of times the auditions will actually be before school starts, and these auditions will be for the large ensembles at your school, so band and orchestra. Do be aware that this may be the group that you're in for the entire year, or at least for the entire semester, so I do recommend taking this audition pretty seriously and making sure that it is representative of how you play. So take the music to your teacher and ask them for help so that they can help you prepare and start you off on the right foot. Generally, the school will give you some music to prepare for the audition, so usually some music that's going to be on one of the concerts coming up that semester. I've also had college auditions where we had to play scales and maybe a bit of sight reading also. Basically, I think you should spend the summer before you enter school to really spend time practicing and working on fundamentals so you'll be really prepared for this audition. At your first audition in college, be aware that a lot of times the upperclassmen will be granted the opportunity to play in the more advanced ensembles because it's likely that they are more experienced players, and also the big thing is that the teachers already know them, so they kind of know what to expect from these people. Whereas if you're coming in as a freshman, even if you're pretty good, you're sort of unknown. So I think sometimes upperclassmen are favored a little bit, unfortunately. As a music major, there will be a few classes that all the music majors have to take, and those are music theory, piano, ear training, and music history. I felt like in school there's sort of a trend to act like you really didn't like these classes and that they're such a drag and so boring or just not fun. I mean, I think sometimes that's true. It really depends on who your teacher is. For me personally, a lot of that knowledge has actually been useful in my career. And I guess I was just one of the few people that actually liked theory and piano. I wasn't crazy about music history, but I think that was more because of the teacher than anything else. If you're a performance major, you're going to have some more performance classes. So of course there are private lessons. There will be chamber music, so small ensembles of like 2 to 5. You'll have a large ensemble, so band or orchestra. And then you may have some more specialized classes, like we had a woodwind excerpt class, and I think there's also a woodwind pedagogy class, which by the way is a word that I totally did not know what it meant. Basically, pedagogy just means learning about how to teach. So if you have a pedagogy class, that's what it's about. Like I said, I wasn't an education major, but I did have some friends that were doing education, and I know that they had to do marching band for one. That was not required for a performance major. And they also, I think, had a lot more pedagogy type classes where they're learning about how to teach music. Try to be as prepared as possible for all of your performance classes. So lessons, band, chamber music, all of these things will be noticed if you come unprepared. Depending on your high school, the culture of practicing may have been different. And at least in my experience in high school, a lot of people would just learn the music in band rehearsal. People do that in college too, but I think it's more frowned upon, and there's definitely more of an expectation for you to have spent time outside of class preparing the part, especially something that's technically difficult that you just need to spend some time woodshedding. That kind of thing is not what band directors want to spend their time doing in rehearsal, and I think they will notice if you are consistently well prepared for your rehearsals. Your professor or private lesson teacher will definitely notice if you haven't practiced. Of course, that happens sometimes. We all have weeks where we have a lot of tests or just life going on, but it's important that your teacher knows that you're taking this seriously and at least most of the time come to your lesson really well prepared and having practiced exactly what your teacher has asked you to. Now that I do a lot more teaching, I realize that I do actually remember what we've talked about in the previous lesson, and I think it really shows that you're serious and that you're listening if you can address those topics in that week between your lessons. Depending on your school, you may also have to take core classes, so just like English, math, that kind of thing. It depends on your school. If you're at a university, I think this will tend to be true, but if you're at a conservatory, you are going to have less of those academic requirements. In addition to all those classes, you will probably have a studio class, which will be all of the other students that are studying with your professor. And this will tend to be weekly at a recurring time. So ours was like Friday at 4 p.m. At this class, I think different teachers do different things, but basically it gives the opportunity for students to perform in front of other students. Sometimes we would listen to music or talk about things. For my school, this class was not something on my academic schedule, and I think because of this, some people felt like it was okay to just not show up sometimes. But I think that this class is so important, and first of all, your teacher will notice if you're not there. I know school can be really overwhelming and it can feel like there's always 100 things to do, but this class, if you're a performance major, I think is super valuable to participating in this community of flutists and having the opportunity to discuss and address flute-specific topics. It's really, in retrospect, a situation that's much more rare for me to come upon nowadays. You will also have a jury at the end of the semester, which sounds kind of scary, but all it is you're just playing something, a piece in front of probably your professor and some of the other woodwind professors. Everyone has to do it. For us, I think this was only at the end of the year. So fortunately by this point, as opposed to the auditions, the teachers will already have an idea of how you play and what they can expect. So I don't think it's quite as scary as it may sound, and not as scary as an audition. Then finally, you will have a recital at some point during your degree. At UNT, I believe there's only one recital, a senior recital required. I did opt to do a junior recital with my friend just for fun. I think they call it a non-degree recital, but you are required to do one recital. This can be a lot of work, but again, your teacher will kind of walk you through it and they'll help you pick the repertoire. They'll help you rehearse with your pianist, and you'll generally spend quite a long time preparing this. So probably you'll start preparing at least by the beginning of that school year, and probably all of your lessons then for that year will be mostly focused on the repertoire for your recital. Everyone's got to do a recital, and this is really cool because when you're in music school, basically there are recitals like every day, every hour. At UNT, there were so many recitals all the time. It's such a great opportunity to be able to support your friends by showing up to the recital. So check the calendar and show up, because that is really important. And you will realize this once you prepare your own recital, how much work it is. For us, the recitals tended to be a little under an hour, so about 45 minutes. A major part of your experience as a music major will be practicing. Music schools will have rooms for you to practice that are probably not that nice, but they will provide that space to just really dig into your instrument and spend hours practicing every day. You will be expected to practice a lot, and your teacher may tell you a specific amount that they want you to practice. I think I heard like 3 or 4 hours a day, which, let's be honest, I would go through phases where I did do that, but for me, I think that was a little bit too much. Maybe I should have practiced more then. But with all of the other requirements of school, I felt like maybe that was a little too much for me, because I'd be sitting in there just waiting for the time to pass. I mean, that's not a good way to practice. It's not productive. It's a waste of time. So some days you may just be too tired, and I think that it's okay to take some days off, and at least take some days where you're maybe just practicing an hour, because really, practicing an hour is not nothing. Some days I think we all just need a break, and that's fine. When you're at school practicing, you will probably experience this practice guilt, where you feel like you should always be practicing, and it's like you can't enjoy doing anything else because you have this nagging feeling that you should be practicing. I think yes and no, this is good. I mean, You should try to spend as much time as you can practicing without sacrificing your mental and physical health. But I also think that sometimes it feels like everyone else is always practicing because there are just so many other students. So of course someone is always practicing, and you see them and you think like, oh no, I should be practicing too. But really, all those people you see practicing are different people, and they're not all constantly practicing. I think being a music major in school is really sort of a once in a lifetime chance to really focus on music and becoming better at your instrument. So I do think it's really important to take practicing seriously. For most of us in high school, we had a lot of other classes. We didn't have the chance to focus on music. And then after school, you have to start worrying about making money and supporting yourself. So I think it's a good idea to try to appreciate as much as possible this time that you are getting to really develop your craft and your art. If you're not a really late night practicer, because there will be some people who will practice really late at night. I wasn't really a late night practicer, and I'm just not really a night person. So I would tend to practice in between my classes, and I would even kind of schedule my classes so that I would have breaks that I could consistently use for practice. When I first started school as a music major, I thought it was so cool to be surrounded by all these other people that were really interested in music like I was, because I went to a high school that didn't have a great music program. In fact, it was pretty terrible. And it always sort of broke my heart that the other people in band just didn't care about the music. I was like, don't you think that you should play that a lot better? Because you can't play it at all. But fortunately, I did have youth orchestra, I had select band, and I also went to Interlochen one summer. So I had some experience with higher level music making. I don't think of myself as a super outgoing person, but I did make quite a few friends in college, and some of them are still my friends to this day. I have a lot of really great and fun memories from college, not in like a crazy girls gone wild kind of thing, but just doing weird, funny things, having my friends around me all the time. In retrospect, it was a really cool and fun time. On the other hand, it is also kind of a stressful time because for a lot of us, it's the first time we're leaving our parents' homes. And yes, we have a lot more freedom, which is really fun and exciting, but you also then have a lot more responsibility. And you have to learn to manage things that you didn't have to do before, like, what are you going to eat for breakfast? So being in college was personally sometimes really difficult and emotionally, but I think we were all sort of going through that same thing together. Even if at the time I didn't exactly know why sometimes I was so stressed out or why I felt so bad. I think it was just because I had all of these new responsibilities and also trying to find my identity in a new place amongst new people. It's sort of a chance where you can reinvent yourself, which is really exciting, but it's also sometimes really scary because it's like, who am I, or who do I want to be? And these are really big questions. When you go to college as a music major, it will be very competitive. Also, having come from being a high school senior where you're the oldest and you're probably the most advanced, you're then put in a situation where you're a newbie and you're the youngest, so the competition will feel really tough. But keep in mind that after college, it actually just gets harder because at my age, 32, I've aged out of a lot of the young artist types of competitions. So now the people I compete with at, say, an orchestral audition may be around my age, but they can also be 10 to 20 years older than me, which is a lot of time to get a lot better at your instrument. When I was in college, I wish I hadn't been so insecure and felt so competitive with the other flutists in my school. It was more just that I sort of always compared myself to other people and felt like I basically wasn't good enough. It's very difficult, but if you can focus on yourself and developing your own artistry, that is so much more important than trying to impress other people at your school. It's a more mature and less small-minded way to think of your peers. Try to use the competition that's around you as inspiration or motivation for yourself, but don't let it get you down. Everyone will have a different experience as a music major. It depends on a lot of things. Your own background, your teacher, the school that you go to, if you're going far away from home or not. But I hope that gives you an idea of what you can expect if you decide to be a music major. Let me know if you have any questions about being a music major in the comments below, or if you were a music major and I forgot something really important, also leave that as a comment. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Instagram at Elise Hokamp, and now I'm also on Facebook. Thank you so much for watching this video. Bye!